Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Coach Paula, your life transitions coach. I am here tonight for Sunday 7 and 7. I'm going to go live on Instagram as well. So let me actually do that as well. Go live. So I'll start this over again. Good evening, good evening. This is Coach Paula, your life transitions coach, and it is Sunday evening. It is the first Sunday of the new year. And so I'm doing my live tonight and I am doing my 7 minutes. And I want to share some different strategies this time with my live. And so for the month of January, I'm going to be focusing on my mom for the Sunday 7 to 7. And I'm focusing on my mom in the month of January because my birthday is in the month of January on the 16th, and my mom passed away on January the 16th on my birthday. And so for the month of January, I'm going to be sharing lessons from the loss of my mom. In February, I'm going to do my husband, and in March, I'm going to do my brother. So part of what I want to do with this process is give you an opportunity to get to know me a little bit more, and why I do what I do as it relates to navigating grief, loss, and disappointment, but then also to share a little bit about the people in my life. And so I'm going to do that in 7 minutes. I'm still going to honor that 7 minutes, but also just give you this opportunity to kind of get to know me a little bit more. So this is focusing on my mom. My mom, her name was Evangelist Geneva Kay. Tonight. I'm going to do an introduction of her story, and then I'm going to do 3 weeks of some lessons from her. So that'll be the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. We'll deal with that and those details a little bit later. So I want to tell her story. Okay, here we are in my 5 minutes left. So my mom was an only child. She was only child of Thomas, Francis, and Eva Bagley. Excuse me, Eva McGuire. Excuse me. She was their only child, and my grandparents were teenagers when my mother was born. And so she was their only child, and my grandfather was the only grandparent that I knew. My other grandparents had all passed away before I was born. And so my grandfather, he loved on my mom. He called her his one and only, and he truly loved on her. My mom, when she was 16, she actually married my dad. And so she married very young in life. And she and my dad had a total of 7 children. I'm the youngest of 7, so I'm the baby girl. And my dad was in the military, and so he traveled, and my mom stayed home with the children. And so they had 5 children initially while my dad was active military. And then when my dad retired, they had me and my brother, number 6 and number 7. And so when I was born, my mom was in her 40s when she had me, and they had told her that she really shouldn't have any more kids, especially after she had my brother, because she had lots of difficulties and challenges, and they told her that she shouldn't have any more. But my dad had prayed and asked God to give him a son and a daughter after he retired from the military. And sure enough, that's what God gave him in my brother and in me. And so my mom was part of what I want to share and what I want to emphasize 3 things regarding my mom. One, my mom always emphasized education to us. And I wasn't really sure quite why. I mean, because I knew my mom wasn't, like she didn't work outside of the home, especially as I was growing up. And then she did do little odd and end jobs um, as she, um, as we got older. But she emphasized education so strictly to us, and like we would sit around the dinner table after, right before dinner, and do our homework, and my parents would watch and make sure that we were getting things done. And I never really understood her emphasis on education until really late in life, when my mom actually told me that she never graduated high school. When she met my dad in her senior year of high school, she never finished and she got married. And it took her years to tell me that, because in some regards she was maybe a little bit embarrassed, but in another regard, she wanted to go back and get her GED, but she didn't know how, and she didn't know, how she could do it and all. And so Before she passed away, that was something she and I were working on together. And it helped me to understand her emphasis of education and making sure that we got our education because she never finished hers. And that's one of the key points I want to make as it relates to honoring people, understanding people. Like understanding her story helped me to understand her a little bit more. And too often we don't know why people emphasize things, why people may act the way they act, but there's always a backstory. And so if we take the opportunity to get to know a person, then we can understand their story. So then I understood why she stressed education so much for us. The other thing I want to emphasize about my mom and her life was that she lived a life of service and sacrifice. You know, my mom was a devout Christian. She loved the Lord with all of her heart, and she lived out loud as far as her relationship with the Lord. But she loved people, she loved God, and she loved his people. Going to church with her, we were always going to be the last one leaving the sanctuary because my mom was going to make sure that she hugged everybody. And if she wasn't sure she hugged you, she would hug you again to make sure that she showed love to everyone. Her life was a life poured out and of sacrifice to other people. And that's the second and third point that I want to make, that sacrifice and service is important to a legacy. That wasn't like, I don't think she set out to say, this is what I want my legacy to be. But think about it as it relates to us. What is going to be said of you when you're no longer here? Will people speak about the sacrifices and the service that you provided to them? Will they speak about the emphasis, on education that you made? The key point that I want to make tonight in my 7 minutes is for you to think about what you want your legacy to be. And so, um, reflect on my story that I've shared about my mom. I'll share more about her in the weeks to come for the month of January. But I just want to tickle that in your thought process to think about, what is the legacy that I want my life to be? We should be living out a legacy even now while we're alive. But when we're no longer here, what do we want to be said of us? That's our thought for this week. My time is up for our Sunday 7 and 7, but think about that this week. Let's regroup on Wednesday and let's regroup on Friday. I hope that what I've shared tonight has shifted your energy and awakened your potential, because you are living your legacy even now. Take care. Have a great night.